Hello, my name is Jamie Locke, Chief of Staff of the White House Initiative of the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, or what we call WHIAANHPI. This year marks a milestone for our White House Initiative as we celebrate 25 years since our establishment in 1999. And with our broadest mandate in history, our work includes tackling long-standing challenges, such as the need for greater data disaggregation and language access, to addressing anti-Asian hate and promoting narrative change, and to advancing economic, health, educational equity, and so much more. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Navigating the Federal Security Clearance Process. The purpose of this webinar is to increase the public's awareness and understanding of the federal clearance process and to promote fairness within the clearance process and to encourage underrepresented people to apply for federal employment. WHIAANHPI is very proud to co-host this webinar alongside the Department of Defense's Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, referred to as DCSA. DCSA is responsible for protecting America's trusted workforce, trusted workspaces, and classified information. DCSA is the largest investigative service provider in the federal government, supporting over 100 federal entities. They oversee 12,500 cleared facilities under the National Industrial Security Program. I want to thank everybody who worked behind the scenes to pull together today's informative webinar for my WHIAANHPI team and the DCSA team. Our AA and NHPI workforce is full of talent, diversity, and unwavering commitment to the public service missions of our agencies. But we also recognize the persistent underrepresentation of Asian Americans and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander individuals in various fields and agencies, especially in leadership roles. I hope webinars like this help equip prospective and current federal employees to explore various government careers and gain the tools necessary to thrive professionally. I'd like to welcome a dear friend of WHIAANHPI who recently served at the White House Chief of Staff's office as an AA and NHPI advisor, Ms. Barbara Holston. She is currently the Chief of Staff for the Counterintelligence and Insider Threat Directorate at DCSA. She leads the directorate in developing and execution of programmatic requirements, providing oversight of talent acquisition, training, and development of the workforce. Her career has spanned over 20 years, from serving at the White House, at the U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command, and with the U.S. Air Force as a budget analyst. She is a proud Asian American and a military spouse and mother of 2 boys in Virginia. Thank you, Barbara and DCSA, for providing today's webinar.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for the introduction and for the collaboration between WHIAANHPI and DCSA for today's webinar. I've been a proud DCSA employee for the last 5 years, initially serving as a senior program analyst in the Counterintelligence Directorate, and now being the Chief of Staff for the Counterintelligence and Insider Threat Directorate. In this role, I was afforded the amazing opportunity to go on a 6.5-month detail assignment where I worked alongside WHIAANHPI and the White House Chief of Staff Office as an ANHPI advisor during the Biden-Harris administration. And throughout my 12 years as a federal employee, I moved from agency to agency and changed positions and took opportunities to gain experience and breadth. And I've been proud to have 9 of those years be focused on national security. As I have moved up in rank, it has been prevalent to me that AA and NHPIs are underrepresented. And when our ANHPI voices are heard, policies are better and more resilient because they're informed by our lived experiences from our rich AA and NHPI communities from across the country. It is important for webinars such as today to provide information to allow for a broader participation and encourage underrepresented people to apply for federal government. I am proud to introduce my fellow colleague, Cheryl Jackson Darden, Senior Recruiter and Diversity Specialist, to kick off today's webinar.
Thank you so much, Barbara and Jamie. for your support. We are so excited to be here today. This collaboration is definitely going to prove to be something that's going to benefit both the federal government as well as making sure that WHIAANHPI members are aware and educated about the clearance process. The whole point of navigating the clearance process presentation is to demystify the myths about the federal security clearance process and to make sure that you're not counting yourself out of the process. As Barbara stated, Asian Americans are very much underrepresented in the federal government, and we want to make sure that we're being intentional about sharing the wealth of knowledge to help you be successful in this process. Now, you've already met Barbara Holston. She is our Chief of Staff for the Counterintelligence and Insider Threat Directorate within our agency. I also have other team members here. Michelle Lake. She is a special agent. I also have Tremel Mumford. He is a division chief for adjudications and vetting. And then we also have Carrie Villegas. She is a special agent within our personnel security team as well. I am a moderator for today, but I'm also a senior recruiter for human resources within our agency. So I'm going to let the team tell you a little bit about themselves before we go ahead and start our presentation. So I'll start with you, Michelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. Okay, everyone, sorry about the camera. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you today. A little bit about myself. I've had various positions. I've been in the military. I've been a military spouse. I've been a proud mother of a recent college student. I have been over 25 years in the federal service. I'm a special agent now, which I love the job. I love the flexibility. I love helping, especially new people come into the government and help them navigate this process because it can be a difficult one. So please, if you have any questions or anything, please reach out to us. We are here to help in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And Tremel?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tremel Munford. I am a division chief within Adjudication and Vetting Services. I have over 20 years of personnel security experiences, starting way back when, many moons ago, in the DONCAF, Department of the Navy Central Adjudication Facility. I've gone through a couple of reorgs, delayering, BRAC moves, so forth and so on. But certainly happy and pleased with the job that we've done being the gatekeepers and the guardians for our Department of Defense, for those people striving for security clearance determinations. I'm also a retired Navy chief, go Navy, but certainly happy to be here today and, certainly demystify any questions or concerns with regards to the clearance process. Thank you.
Thank you, Tremel. And Carrie?
Hello, my name is Carrie Villegas. I'm a special agent with DCSA. I've been in investigations for almost 15 years. I was a contractor for 5 years, and I've been with the feds for almost 10. I'm also a mother to a beautiful 3-year-old girl, and I really enjoy my job. And as was mentioned, it's a great way to help people get into their careers. And I'm happy to do this to help people learn about it and feel a little more open to the process and a little less scared of it.
Thank you so much, Carrie. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward with the presentation. Let's see. There we go. And tell you a little bit more about DCSA. And before we get into the Q&A about the security clearance. So DCSA is the largest security agency in the federal government, and we're dedicated to protecting America's trusted workforce and trusted workspaces, and that's with real and virtual. We do have 2 essential missions, personnel security and industrial security, and they are supported by our counterintelligence and insider threat and our security training functions. We oversee over 12,000 cleared facilities, and we conduct approximately 4 million background investigations per year. And the last I looked, that's over 12,000 investigative actions per day. And that's why we're always looking for talented people to join our team. Now, as I mentioned, some of the mission areas We have personnel security, industrial security, security training, and counterintelligence insider threat. These are our key mission areas. But DCSA is larger than that. We also have business support services such as human resources, marketing, finance, procurement, etc., that help to make the whole engine work. So when you're looking at our jobs, it's very important for you to understand what the mission areas goals and objectives are. And you can find that information on our website, which is www.dcsa.mil. We are located, our headquarters is located in Quantico, Virginia. However, we have 4 regional offices that are located in San Diego, California, Farmers Branch, Texas, Andover, Massachusetts, and Alexandria, Virginia. And we have 160 plus field offices across the nation. Some of our folks work remotely, some of them have hybrid schedules. So it's just really important that when you're looking at our jobs in USA Jobs, that you're reading the locations, you're reading the entire job announcement to understand what some of the perks are. All of them aren't the same depending on which mission area you're working for and the locality. So without further ado, I ask my team to turn their cameras on because we're going to get right into the employer talk, the panel session. So the first question that we have around the security clearance is that's just in layman's terms, what is the security clearance process? And Carrie, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Thank you, Cheryl. This is a process that we use to determine whether or not an individual is willing and able to adhere to personnel vetting processes. This provides an overview of national security processes and eligibility to occupy any sensitive positions. A person may need to undergo a background investigation for credentials, even for public trust purposes as well. Factors such as loyalty, character, trustworthiness, and reliability are all factors that we use. We exercise the whole person process to try to get an idea of who you are, not focusing on one individual event or issue. And the areas of discussion we might talk about or that we require you to list and then continue to talk about are where you've lived, where you've gone to school, where you've worked. And we also look into general record checks such as criminal history, drug or alcohol use, mental health, allegiance to the United States. All those types of things help us get that clear picture of you as a person.
Okay, thank you for that. And being on the front line, that's very, Carrie is on the front line of the clearance process. So the information she's sharing to you is valuable. So Tremel, from your perspective, from adjudications, what is the clearance process?
So effectively, adjudications from a personal security specialist standpoint is a review of a significant period of time in a person's life. So as Carrie mentioned, she she collects all the data, all the information that's relevant to what I like to call us the end user here within AVS, the Adjudication and Vetting Services. So the adjudicator will look through the information collected by the investigators, and what they do, what their intent, of course, is to evaluate each investigation to assess the level of risk associated with granting an individual eligibility to access to classified information or eligibility to hold a sensitive position. Typically what we do is review the criterion called SEED 4 or the 13 adjudicative guidelines to look for disqualifiers and mitigators associated with any of the derogatory information contained in that investigative file. So, I mean, we look at things like personal conduct, alcohol consumption, drug involvement, substance abuse, psychological conditions, foreign influence, foreign preference, outside activities. I mean, just to name a few. Under each of those particular criterion or guidelines, there are both disqualifiers and mitigators. In order for someone to have a favorable clearance determination rendered, all the disqualifying information has to be mitigated. But there are no absolutes, of course, in personnel security. That's partially why we're here today. Typically, again, for an adjudicative standpoint, if we can mitigate it, we will mitigate it. We don't like taking clearances. We go strictly by the C4 guidelines, but certainly we'll talk about that shortly.
All right, so thank you all. And I give kudos to personnel security because when you go to our website and you click on personnel security, it actually gives you the step-by-step guidelines as to if you're applying for a job and the security clearance process. So if you wanted to contact the investigator, there's information there. So please visit our website for more information on the clearance process. So the next question that I have is I've been offered a job. I need to complete a background check. What should I do first to prepare for? So Michelle, I know this is really important to you because you get the applications first.
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. Individuals should carefully look over the security questionnaire prior to inputting any information in the form. I know people get excited, they want to fill the form out really quickly, but a lot of times they miss something. So it's definitely a time saver to the individual as well as to others which are conducting the investigation. Some of the questions are collected within specific time frame, and others might be more open. So an individual needs to try to be complete and transparent in the responses with the questionnaire, to include accurate physical addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, complete names of family members, friends, references. Take your time. For instance, if you don't know your best friend's email address, take your time, take a pause, and go get that information. It eases the process. Financial considerations such as delinquent debt, unfiled taxes, anything that you think that might be a problem, you can help resolve your plan. So make sure that you bring those things with you during your interview, but just try to be prepared. We love seeing people, but lately I've seen so many people several different times, which slows the process down because they forget to add something, one thing or another. So just try to be thorough. Take your time.
Thank you for that, Michelle. So what you're saying is that the more information they provide up front, the easier the clearance process is. Does that sounds right? Okay. All right. Okay. And Tramel, how about you? What's your take on this? How should people prepare for background checks?
Sure, I'd foot stomp a lot of the things that Michelle stated. I think one of the more important things you can do, more prudent things you can do, is to allow an appropriate amount of time and focus when you're completing the security clearance questionnaire. From the back end of the process, the adjudicators like to make informed decisions. Anytime they can't make an informed decision, they try to fill in the blank, and that could delay your enter on duty if you've accepted a job because you don't have your clearance eligibility. So take your time, allow a significant period of time. Those forms are quite voluminous. There are a lot of questions up there, and there are documents that you may need, financial documents, passport information, addresses, all of those things. We prefer to, take care of the one file swoop, certainly in the beginning, review each question carefully and answer honestly. That's what we look for on the back end of the process.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll go to the next question. I've heard you need to be squeaky clean to obtain a security clearance. Is that true, Carrie?
This is a very common misconception. As I mentioned before, we have what we call the whole person picture. And so what that means is everything that you fill in on your eQuip, the paperwork that you fill out at the beginning, that's sort of the framework of who you are. It gives us an idea, but we have to fill in the context. And so when we start looking into these bits and pieces of you, and we interview you and the people around you, it allows us to fill in those gaps and find context in your life. So for example, someone who filed for bankruptcy, there's very different reasons people do that. Some people do it because they lose a job or they have high medical bills following a serious illness. That is very different than somebody who runs up a bunch of credit cards buying expensive shoes or has a gambling habit. So we look into what led to the issues in your life, and what you've done to mitigate those. So you certainly don't have to be squeaky clean, but you have to be proactive in solving your problems.
Right, because life happens, right? And the whole key to it is disclosing. So Tramel, what did you have to add to that?
Again, Carrie touched on it. It is a common misconception that you have to be squeaky clean. I like to think that all the cases that's coming through AVS, there's only a very small percentage that are quote unquote squeaky clean. I mean, when you talk about squeaky clean, traffic tickets, speeding tickets, stuff you did when you were, say, a juvenile or like in college where, maybe your maturity wasn't quite there. So everyone has a history, certainly. But we utilize the whole person concept in our decision making. One of the things I do want to say is because people believe that they have to be squeaky clean, sometimes that leads them to omit information, which again is the opposite direction of where you want to go, because that makes us scrutinize your application that much further. So certainly, you might hear this theme again, being trustworthiness, or being trustworthy rather, candid, honest in your responses to the questionnaire. Also, when you speak with the investigator, we need to see that on the back end because again, if we see a red flag anywhere, then that certainly opens you up to more scrutiny, and again, that can delay the process altogether.
Thank you. That's great information, Termel. Great. So when you feel like it may be questionable, don't omit it because you guys just take a deeper dive, correct?
Yep, that's correct. You'd be surprised what we find out.
Yes. Yeah. So disclose, right? All right. So let's go to the next question. Will I be declined a clearance if I've sought mental health treatment? And Michelle, I'll let you respond to that one.
Yeah, I'm going to give mostly let Termel answer this a lot, but will answer it from the agent's point of view because we do get this question a lot.
Right.
And the medical thing has changed. I know years ago when I was military, it was kind of stigma if you were to sought mental health, and it was a big thing. You don't want to hide things. But nowadays, it's really great that more people coming out and saying they have different issues. And so just because you might have an issue, even if something that you think is like bipolar or whatever, a lot of times it can be mitigated. I'm sure Mr. Termel will tell us more about that, but a lot of times just be upfront and honest. So for instance, if you didn't disclose something, especially in the interview, and you see, oh yeah, I did try to commit suicide, whatever the case may be, tell your agent. So even if you forget to put something down and you think, oh, can I tell you that? Tell the agent if you have any doubts, because a lot of times if they don't need it, they won't use it, but a lot of times they could use it. So just be, again, transparent. Don't worry about thinking that it's going to be different issues that's going to affect your clearance. Just be forthcoming. And Mr. Termel, will you add some more into this, please?
Sure. Again, speaking from, certainly years of experience, I was there when, people returning from the Gulf War. It was seen as like, oh, taboo. I'm not going to mention my issues or anything with PTSD, any kind of issues or mental health problems that I may be having. And that resulted in what I like to think is a sea change, because what we wanted to do was we wanted people to get the mental health treatment, to seek help, professional help, certainly if they need it. So I can tell you from an adjudicative standpoint, seeking any type of necessary mental health treatment is viewed actually as favorable in the adjudications process. We have a entire branch at ABS, it's the behavioral science branch, with staff psychologists. We have, I think, about 3 or 4 of them now, as well as adjudicators specifically trained in any type of behavioral, emotional, mental, personality disorder. So I've seen individuals get their clearances with emotional, mental, personality disorder, but they're prescribed medication and they're following their prescribed medication regimen. And one of the requirements for us is, okay, if we're aware of this condition that you may have, as long as you're following your prescribed medication regimen, prescribed to you by your physician, then certainly that mitigates any type of disqualifying information, and it will not prohibit you from getting any type of clearance eligibility. So
Right.
definitely, again, please, for those individuals who may have any type of, may need to seek any mental health treatment, again, it's reviewed favorably in the adjudication process.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Tramel, because in today's climate, being post-COVID and all of the stresses that folks have had across the globe, right? We can't ignore that mental health is there, but I like the fact that it's a positive and it's looked upon as a positive when someone is proactive in making sure that their mental health is being addressed. So that's great. And this kind of is a segue question too, into the mental health. Is there a barrier for people with neurodiversity, such as ADHD, autism, Tourette syndrome? And you spoke to that, Tramel. So I'm going to start with you on this question.
Okay, so it's not a disqualifying or relevant risk condition such as like bipolar or some kind of psychotic disorder or personality disorder, but those on the autism spectrum could it could present behaviors of concern that may rise to, significant security relevance. But part of that is because of the focus. When you're involved in a security environment, there's a focus that you have to have. Did you lock up that cabinet? Are you on the right system? Are you on the high side, on the low side? So, certainly from a focus standpoint, for those individuals who may be on the autism spectrum, that's where it may come into play. But again, there are no absolutes. Typically, what we do is we kind of dig into, what is specific to your specific scenario, and we apply the C4 guidelines, both the disqualifiers and the mitigators, and we make the decision, the informed decision from there. And a lot of times we will go out and talk to the mental health professional. We actually will seek information from you. So again, it is not a open and shut, type of deal. What we do again, we just make an informed decision by talking to you, the mental health practitioner that you may be seeing, as well as our staff psychologist.
Thank you so much, Tramel. And Carrie, did you want to add to that?
No, I just want to say that usually when we speak to people's healthcare providers, they're usually very cooperative, and they want to help you get your clearance, whether that means helping you through your treatment and supporting you and making sure that you comply. So it's not an automatic disqualifier by any means. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Thank you. I do want to add that DCSA is very supportive of people with neurodiverse diagnoses. Michelle and I did participate in a cultural conversation way back, I think in June last year. And we actually had the director of I think OPM or the Department of Labor, who is on the spectrum, but he's the director of the Department of Labor that handles the Diversity and Disabilities Unit and team. We also had two of our employees who shared on their journey with the agency, some positive, some negative, and then how the agency made those accommodations that they were able to be successful in their role. So DCSA is proactive and accepting to making sure that all folks are comfortable in the workplace and accepted in the workplace. So really proud of that. Really proud to see our employees shine and get out of there. And they weren't fearful to share with the entire agency their experience. So we are friendly to those who do have the neurodiverse diagnoses. We just want to make sure that you have all of the accommodations that you need to be successful. Okay, the next question. What if I'm a part of the LGBTQ plus community, but I have not come out publicly? I think I start with you, Michelle, on that one.
Okay. And also, Cheryl, I just want to echo what you just said. That is a great app. I think sometimes people might have a disability. They're afraid to share that disability with somebody, but a lot of times the workplace will make some accommodations. So sometimes do not be afraid if you do have some disability or something that you need to help, some assistance with. We're here to help. So yes, during the security question process, the clearance process, your information, we get a lot of information from you, but we do not reveal that to others. We're not going to tell anyone about your sexual preference. We're not going to do anything like that. Your personal information will not be divulged to your friends, family members. However, anything that puts you in a position that might be blackmail, pressure, coercion, will need to be addressed. For instance, if someone can blackmail you because they know a secret about you, you don't want to be revealed, we'll have to explore that. Your loyalty, your character, your trustworthiness, and reliability, that's going to determine your qualifications to hold a security clearance. It's not based on your race, ethnicity, your sexual preference, none of those things. Now, of course, your sexual preference, if you're into child porn, I think that's going to be a deal breaker for you. But if it's other things like that, it's not going to be a problem. We do not share that information.
And so, Michelle, you would say that the federal government has come a long way from maybe 5-10 years ago with really accepting and embracing the LGBTQ plus community. I know we've had a couple of events within the agency where folks who work within the agency have expressed increased the awareness and made the workplace friendlier and more inclusive to folks within this community. Would you agree?
Oh, most definitely. We have come a long way. I mean, we have made a lot of difference. Just a lot of people did not need to be informed. We need to tell people, about different things. And the federal government, unfortunately, we're still a little bit behind. You might not have, you might just have male and female bathrooms and different things like that. So we're not as close as the civilian world, but we are catching up. We're making strides to the acceptance of everything.
Yes, thank you. And Tramel, did you want to add anything to the responses of this question?
Sure. I mean, just again, foot stomping what Michelle said, as long as your sexual preference or lifestyle, that can't be used against you to blackmail, bribe you, of course, to put it bluntly and candidly, we don't care. We have a C4 guidelines, and we don't have a picture of you. We don't look at anything but the information contained within the investigation. And as long as you can kind of confirm that again you can't be blackmail, bribe, of course, based upon this information, then it's a non-factor.
All right. Thank you all. Let's move on to the next question. I'm a military veteran. How does having a foreign spouse or foreign connections impact my clearance? Carrie, I'll start with you.
Yeah, foreign spouses and foreign national contacts are not overall a problem in and of itself. It does require some additional investigation. We have to make sure that that there's no issues of allegiance or loyalty to the United States, and that you're not under pressure by any foreign governments. And so it's not a deal breaker. There's just some additional questioning that we ask, depending on whether you have a foreign citizenship. We might review your passports, some things like that, and interview a couple of additional sources, excuse me. But it's not a deal breaker on the front end, and it's definitely not something that, it's something we see almost every day. So it's very common.
Exactly. I know. I was a former military spouse, and that was just, that was a part of life. It was very diverse, inclusive community. Being in a foreign country at one time, Okinawa, woo-hoo, that was just a part of life. If you were a military spouse, you were a military spouse, and you connected, and you were a part of the family. That's just how we conducted ourselves. So, Tramel, from an adjudications perspective, how would you all address this?
So, any type of evaluation of personnel with foreign family members or foreign connections, from an adjudicator perspective, what we do is consider: is there any chance or potential for divided allegiances due to the bonds of affection, say with a spouse, or even a family member, another family member, or from a friend standpoint or associate standpoint, any type of business, financial, or property interests with the foreign connection. So we just want to make sure that there's no divided allegiances or loyalties, and you feel more obligated to protect the interests of you and say the foreign born family member over those of say the interest of the United States. And so that's how we look at it from a adjudications perspective. But in and of itself, the world is much smaller now. People travel a whole heck of a lot more. We have military people all over the world, retired military, a lot of retired military coming to the federal government through their travels. They made foreign-born connections. Some of them even retire overseas. So, I mean, those are some of the things that, we take a look at it. We just like to make sure that you don't put the interest of, say, a relative or a foreign connection over those of the interest of the United States.
That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right. So we talked about all the things that we should do. So what are a few of the deal breakers for obtaining a security clearance? And Michelle, I'll start with you.
Okay. As mentioned previously, during the investigation process, information is collected to provide the whole person concept, the whole person's individual's background. Information is collected to address favorable characteristics in their background that could be considered, and we want to make sure that they don't have anything derogatory, such as criminal conduct, financial responsibility, or trustworthiness. A lot of times, for instance, if you say you're doing illegal behavior, saying you're going to massage parlors and you're paying people to do different things, that's kind of illegal, and you want to engage in a lot of illegal activities, that might be a deal breaker. If you're into things that are blatantly breaking the law and you don't want to change your behavior and it's something recent, that might be a deal breaker. But unfortunately, we do not have a laundry list of like, yep, if you do this and this and this, because a lot of things can be mitigated. Even time sometimes can be on someone's side. Someone might have done something as a teenager, but they're older now and they've learned their lesson by that. So unfortunately, we don't have a list of deal breakers, but sometimes some behavior, I'm sure Termel might tell us, some behaviors, if you keep persisting with those criminal acts or being financially responsible, you're gambling all the time and you have or you have an alcohol problem and you do not want to get treatment or different things like that, that might be a deal breaker. Unfortunately, I have a few situations where I know this one person, when I interviewed his background, everyone loved him, but he would not show up to work. He lost like 5 different jobs because he just didn't want to seek help. When I interviewed him, he goes, yeah, I don't want to seek help. I don't want to be embarrassed. But this guy would have been a great worker because everyone sung his praises. They just said, we were working with him, but he never came to work. So of course, sometimes people have things in their past that might be a deal breaker, but unfortunately, we don't have a laundry list and say, yep, this is a deal breaker. Just like those things I had asked. Jamel, do you want to add something to this, please?
Sure. So the term deal breaker, you can look at it a few different ways, but from an adjudicator perspective, we look at again, I keep harping back to the guidelines that we follow, the C4 guidelines. We look for disqualifiers and mitigators and such. So any type of significant criminal conduct, again, I've heard child porn mentioned. Also, any type of recent drug usage that's non-experiential in nature. Those are some of the things that we can take a look at. Certainly, everyone remembers January 6th, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on and what you believe versus what you don't believe. Any type of effort or attempt to overthrow the U.S. government, that's pretty much right up there as far as a quote unquote deal breaker. We've had individuals who we've discovered were down there on January 6th and they've lost their clearance eligibility, but certainly they were entitled to due process. And that's why I kind of use the term deal breakers loosely, because even if there's initial determination to deny or say revoke a security clearance, all the individuals are entitled to due process. And during the due process, again, there's a reevaluation of all the relevant information pertaining to your particular scenario or your particular file. And sometimes a thumbs up, even after a review of that evaluation, your specific scenario. Sometimes it's a thumbs down. They support or continue with the initial determination to deny revoke your clearance eligibility. But we use that term deal breaker, a little bit loosely, that we'd like to follow the C4 guidelines.
All right. Well, I feel a little bit more safer knowing you all are doing your job. All right. So what are your responsibilities if I'm employed and I'm a current employee? What are my responsibilities in maintaining a top secret or secret clearance? And I'll start with you, Carrie, on this.
So first and foremost, you want to maintain good standing. You want to stay on top of your bills, stay away from illegal activities, stay out of drug use or alcohol abuse, things along those lines. You want to practice all your guidelines and regulations in your workplace to safeguard national security, whether that's, keeping logs of what you've locked up or taken out, all the way down to, making sure your phone is in a locker outside of a skiff so you don't take it in with you by accident. And being vigilant. If you see something, say something. So if you receive a document by mistake that's marked classified and you don't have need to know, you have to report that immediately. So you have to remain detail oriented and very vigilant. If you fall behind on a bill or you inherit a large sum of money, you find yourself in bankruptcy court or going into debt consolidation, or maybe something came up and your wages were garnished, you need to report any big changes. And that also includes, positive life changes. So say you get married or you have a cohabitant move in, or you have a baby, you need to report any changes in your life so that we know who's in your home and what's going on, who could potentially have an influence over you. So report things right away if they're positive or negative. And any type of missteps, recent criminal conduct, alcohol treatment, if you develop foreign national contacts that maybe you didn't have when you underwent your investigation, if you are disciplined in the workplace or have some sort of issue with a supervisor, you want to report all of those things so that it doesn't look like you're covering them up. And then if you have any questions, you always want to consult your supervisor and get clarity before you make any decisions in gray areas that could potentially lead to a security violation. You just want to make sure that you are aware of what's required of you and what your responsibilities are in the workplace.
Thank you so much for that, Carrie. But you know, one thing I know that I have to do maybe twice a year is I have to report that I'm going out of the country for a vacation. So that is one of the things, at least 30 days prior to before you leave the country, you have to report where you're going, give your entire itinerary, and then
Yes.
5 days once you get back, after you get back, you have to report any suspicious behaviors or people that you may have experienced. So definitely in our job, when we have the clearances that we have, and we are privy to the information that we have to be willing to do those things. Tramel, I'll let you add to this.
Sure. Cheryl, maybe you shouldn't go out of country so
Well, you
trust
just
me.
said that the world is smaller
Yes,
now,
it
right?
is. Yes, it is. I jest, of course. I'm just kidding. But no, seriously. One of the things that I think you can do, in addition to what Carrie mentioned, was the annual mandatory training requirement. It's a pain in the butt sometimes, but it is necessary for us to do. There are certain changes that take place and occur, and that's one of the ways you find out about some of the changes. I think Carrie touched on all the, basically when you have substantial life changes, please report them. It benefits you, throughout the process, and it makes you again more trustworthy when you're candid and forthcoming, because you have to exercise appropriate judgment once you get your clearance because of this thing called CV, continuous vetting. Um, Continuous vetting essentially is when you sign your security clearance forms, you consent to basically continuous monitoring. Continuous monitoring. So typically in the past, we wouldn't, from an adjudicator's perspective, let's just say you got your clearance and 2 years later you got a DUI. We would not find out about that until the next investigation. But with continuous vetting, if you got that DUI, say on Saturday night, Friday night, we'll probably find out about it sometime next week, or the following week rather. So exercise the appropriate amount of judgment. Please don't feel like, oh, I've made it, I've got my clearance, now I can kind of act up a little bit, because you'll get yourself in a lot of trouble. But I think, in a nutshell, again, kind of summarizing, report your substantial lifestyle changes or substantial life changes. Complete your annual mandatory training and exercise the appropriate judgment. Keep doing the things that allow you to get your clearance eligibility. Yes.
Awesome, awesome, great information. Well, this is the time for open forum. If there are any questions that are in the chat, let me take a look. I do see one question. And I'll leave this open to any one of the team members here. How does it affect me if my friends and family are involved in criminal activity, or if they are incarcerated?
Okay,
Michelle,
I'll
are you
jump
taking?
in.
Okay.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Typically speaking, sometimes we do see this. This has come up in some cases where, say, an individual was born here and their mother or father is illegal. Um, you know, what that's kind of under the personal conduct guideline. One of the disqualifiers is association with a person involved in criminal conduct. However, again, whole person concept. You cannot help who your family is. Typically speaking, if you're involved with somebody who, a friend or family member who involved in criminal activity or incarcerated, it doesn't have a bearing as long. I mean, we ask a lot of questions, but it doesn't have a bearing as long as you are not an active participant in the crime or illegal activity, or you're not aiding, abetting, or supporting any family member involved in the criminal activity. The key thing here is that you're transparent, and what we look for is once you were made aware, once you are aware that that person, family member, friend, whomever is involved in any type of criminal activity, you begin the process of disassociating yourself from that person, even if it is a family or friend, family or friend, and also you don't provide any type of support, like aiding and abetting, or harboring a fugitive, anything of that nature, because again, that would be, now you've crossed over to the realm of engaging in criminal activity. So that would kind of be negative or derogatory towards you obtaining or maintaining clearance eligibility.
Okay, all right. This question is for you. This question is, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, one thing about that. Sometimes if someone's undocumented, what he was saying too, if someone's undocumented and they're 18 years old, they're about to join the military or whatever, a lot of times if they're a child, they're not responsible, for living in that home and things like that. So even if they have undocumented parents, just be transparent about it. Don't be ashamed that your parents don't have a social security number or whatever, because we know that could be an issue. It comes up quite a bit.
Okay. Now, Michelle, thank you for that. This question's for you, Michelle. I have delinquent student loan accounts. Will that discount me from holding a clearance?
I would say, unfortunately, we see that probably almost every day, unfortunately, because, of course, the price of school is astronomical. However, a lot of times if you're making attempts, so for instance, if you know you have student debt, if you call and try to make a payment plan for them or defer them, a lot of times we want you to make sure that you're communicating with your creditors. So even if it's a student loan or if it's a car loan, house payment, whatever the case may be, as long as you keep lines of communication open with your creditor and you're making movement to work on that debt and not add to that debt, then usually it's not a problem. Unfortunately, with the student loans, we see it all the time, and a lot of times they'll work with you. And one thing, plugging the federal government, a lot of times I know, for instance, I have a colleague who, a lot of times if you have student debt, they have a program out there where if you give the federal government 10 years of your time and you're steadily paying on your student loans, after you satisfy your 10 years, a lot of times that will be loan forgiveness. So it's a lot of different options, just because I think what happens with a lot of times with student loans or any debt, people just rather like, oh, I don't see it, I don't want to pay attention to it. But we just want you to confront the debt, don't hide it. Work on trying to satisfy your creditors.
Thank you so much. Okay, and the next question, Carrie, I have for you. Let's see. I'm visiting California later this year, where marijuana is legal. Am I permitted to participate in marijuana use if I hold a clearance?
No, you're not. So this is something we run into a lot too, because it does seem unclear on the front end, because it is legal in some states. So if you go to a state where it's legal, it seems like, oh, I should be able to participate in this. However, your clearance is a federal permission. So until marijuana is federally legal, and it currently is not, anybody holding a clearance is not permitted to use marijuana. So it doesn't matter if you live in a state where it's legal, the federal law trumps that. And so, unfortunately, no, you can't.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. Did anyone else have anything to add on that one? I think that's our last question. But I want to thank my panel, Carrie, Michelle, and Tremel. You guys are awesome. Wealth of knowledge. I know you all could go on and on and on, telling stories that you experience every day, because I know no day is the same in the jobs that you do. But we so appreciate your expertise and supporting this event. So thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just how do you stay connected with DCSA? First, make sure that you create your USA Jobs profile and set up alerts. You can put in DCSA alerts, and then jobs will be emailed to your inbox. So that way you won't lose the opportunity to apply before the position closes. You want to definitely connect with us via our social media platforms. That's Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We do have jobs that are listed there. You'll see some of our events, maybe even some of the highlights of what our employees are doing. So you'll learn a little bit more about our agency's culture to see if it's a good fit for you. And then we also have hiring events, and you can find those on our DCSA careers page. Sometimes we have virtual hiring events that only require applicants to submit their resume and supporting documents via email versus USA Jobs. So when we have those events posted, we get a lot of applicants simply because the application process is easier. So make sure you're staying connected to us. And then also, when you're looking up our jobs, it's good for you to understand the different job titles and what to put in the search engines when you're looking for our jobs. So here are some of our most common job titles that we do have posted quite often. But again, you want to make sure that you're going to USA Jobs and our careers page and LinkedIn to actually see the live job announcements. And then you can stay connected to me. I do have my email address here. It is extremely long. I can tell you sometimes because of the firewalls, external emails may be delayed or may not even come in. However, you can always connect with me via LinkedIn. My tag is Cheryl Darden, America's Gatekeeper. If you can send me a message now, I will accept it, whether it's from my cell phone or from my laptop. But I want to thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate being here with WHIAANHPI and having the opportunity to share more about our agency, the career opportunities, and also to clarify the clearance process. As you can see, Michelle, Carrie, and Tremel have a wealth of knowledge. I hope that is helpful to you as you seek employment within the federal government. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.